Hello, my name is Kim Pierce, and I'm a registered dietitian and certified diabetes care and education specialist here at Stephanie Tubbs Jones Health Center. With the holidays approaching, what better topic to talk about than holiday eating? Now, as you're sitting there at home, couple things to kind of start to think about as we go into this presentation. First of all, how does holiday eating make you feel? For some people, we're very excited. We can't wait for the holidays, all the good food and the excitement, meeting our family and friends. Other people, they might feel stressed, maybe stress from family. Sometimes food causes that stress. And then some people, maybe you're lucky and you don't even care. And that's perfectly fine too. The other question is, do you have any approaches to holiday eating? Are there things that you do at home that help you to de-stress before meals? Or are you just sitting there right now wondering, what approach should I have? And we are here to talk about that today. So we have a few approaches to holiday eating that we're going to cover. First of all will be portion size. Second is utilizing recipe substitutions. Eating your favorite foods mindfully, and we're going to have a mindful experiment. And last but not least, physical activity and exercise. One of my favorite first approaches to holiday eating, and this is good to do any time of year, are watch your portion sizes. And the easiest way to go about that is the plate method. So the simplest plate method is having half of your plate be your non-starchy veggies, quarter your plate being protein, and a quarter of your plate being a carbohydrate. So on a typical Thanksgiving plate, maybe that might be salad or green beans for your non-starchy veggie, maybe turkey, or some people do ham. And then for your carbohydrate, it could be mashed potatoes, stuffing, or even maybe mac and cheese. So just having that simple plate can make everything a lot easier for you. The other next idea are recipe substitutions. Now, earlier today, we had gone with Chef Jim in the Culinary Medicine Institute presentation. We talked a lot about different recipe substitutions, but there's a few here on our slide as well. So first, little things. If you're used to using a lot of sour cream, one, you can always use a reduced fat version, or you can always use fat-free plain Greek yogurt in place of the sour cream. If you're cooking potatoes, leaving the skin on those potatoes, that's going to increase the fiber. You can still cook them normally, but you'll have more fiber in those items as well. Along with those potatoes, say you're making mashed potatoes. You can leave the salt out, as you might be mixing in gravy, or for others who like to mix their entire plate together, there'll be enough salt to give you flavor in those other foods that you don't have to add extra salt to an item like potatoes. And being very mindful of how much salt you're using in general. We have so many herbs and spices and vegetables that can be used, so we can really lower that sodium content, but still offering a lot of flavor. And one of the things you saw earlier today in our pasta was using a whole wheat flour or a whole wheat pasta in that item. And using whole wheat instead of white refined grains will increase that fiber consumption. So maybe you're making biscuits or pancakes. Any of those little easy options where you're just changing the type of flour, but you can still have your favorite item. And one big factor too is mindfulness. What does mindfulness actually mean though? Mindfulness is the ability to fully be present and aware of where you are and what you are doing. So currently sitting in this room with the kitchen, and you can listen for distractions too. So one big part of mindfulness is limiting those distractions that are around you. So we will actually be doing an experiment in a moment, but to kind of walk you through this first. Being present. So sometimes that is as easy as just sitting down. Some people prefer to close their eyes. Obviously, if you're at a dinner table with your family, that's up to you. But being aware of your surroundings and knowing that you are about to eat. When we're really rushing around, our body has a hard time digesting. So settling down, de-stressing, and being aware of what we're about to do actually helps your digestion. Next is going to be eliminate those distractions. In our day-to-day lives, we have so many screens around us, between cell phones, TVs, tablets, you name it. There's probably sometimes 5 or 6 screens in one room. So getting rid of those screens so that you can be fully present with your food as well as your family too, as that social interaction is very important. And this next point, it might take this is digging a little bit deeper. It might take a little bit more working with maybe a counselor or a dietitian, but learning to cope with any guilt and anxiety around food. Sometimes those things can cause us to be more stressed. They can cause us, for some people, to eat more. Other people might eat less. And that can be something to really work through so that you can enjoy your meal and your time with your family as much as you possibly can. And of course, the biggest thing with holiday meals, you want to enjoy that food. These are foods we don't get all year round many times. These might be once or twice a year meals. So using your senses, sight, what does it look like? You know, all the beautiful colors, even the table that's all decorated, what do you have in front of you? Touching, you know, maybe you have biscuits or rolls. What are those textures even when you're putting it into your mouth, what is the texture of your food? As well as the smell. You know, our taste buds are one part, but smell also helps to start that. You know, a lot of times we smell a food and we get hungry just from smelling that. And that can start our digestive system as well. And of course, taste. So all of these different things will help you to slow down that eating. Of course, chewing your food slowly helps, but these are all great mindful tips to enjoying your meal. So we're going to do a mindful experiment. So I have some chocolate here. Whatever you have at home is perfectly fine if you have nuts or cheese or whatever item that's around. And we are going to go through 5 different items to kind of think of when you are enjoying your food. So first of all, what does it look like? So I'm going to open up this chocolate here. We have some dark chocolate, and so that's what it currently looks like. What does it smell like? We have some sweet flavor, obviously the cacao, that chocolate is in there, and that's currently what I can smell. And we're going to take a small bite. And when I say to take a small bite, it's because we want to really have small bites so we can really taste that food. So the first thing I'm going to be looking for is texture. So in this item, I am having it's a little bit of a crunchy. And in this as well, this is actually has some caramel in it, so there's a little bit of that caramel texture. One thing I really personally love to do with chocolate is let the chocolate melt in your mouth. A lot of foods can do this as well. We are in such a rush in our society that a lot of times we don't taste our food, or we're very distracted, which leads us to eating more. So if we slow that down and really taste all that food, let that chocolate melt in our mouth, it allows us to actually eat less, and you're also enjoying your food more. It does take 15 minutes for your stomach to even tell your brain you have food in it. And for some people, that can even be a little bit longer. So we can eat a lot of food very, very quickly and then have that stomach ache later. So this is going to help to slow down that process. So as you take and savor that bite, roll that food around in your mouth, finding if it's sweet. Is it salty? So in this item, we have the sweetness from the caramel. There's salsa, but it's also salsa caramel, so there's a little bit of a salty and sweet taste. And really savoring each bite. So some people prefer to actually close their eyes and really taste everything, or just slowing down and being present so that you know that you're consuming food. And with mindfulness, one of the biggest things is food is meant to be enjoyed. Food is cultural, it is social. This is the holiday season. Our families typically sit and share these meals together. So enjoying that food is very important. So the main thing is just enjoying your time with your family and friends and your food. Moving on to the next item, physical activity and exercise. As we're with our families, whether this be a family activity or maybe you just need to de-stress by yourself, getting out and exercising is very healthy for both de-stressing, but also great for those blood sugars too. So simple things like walking. Maybe as long as it's safe outside, you can take your family out and take a walk and look at all the lovely holiday lights. Some people do this by driving, but what better way to get out and get moving by walking? Also, as the holiday season comes in, we are typically shopping more. So maybe that is parking further away from the store when you're doing your shopping, or even walking the store to get those extra steps in. Some fun things that potentially we can do are ice skating. Previously, downtown has offered the ice rink, and the other areas might have ice rinks as well, so that can just be a fun winter sport. Dancing is another one that's fun. Maybe you have your entire family over and you just decide to have a dance party. If we have snow, sledding is also a really fun way of getting some extra exercise while still making it fun. And that is the bottom line too. Some people have routines for exercise. When you're really with your family and friends, making these things fun is going to get you more motivated to actually go and do them versus just, saying you have to go to the gym or something like that. Now, a lot of people do travel for the holiday seasons. And with traveling, we're typically busy, and sometimes planning ahead doesn't necessarily happen, but can be very, very important. One, if you are traveling by airplane, there can be delays that happen, and this can always be a concern, especially with any diabetes medications. We don't want you to risk having a low blood sugar. With planning ahead, consider the restaurants that are around you, whether that be in your drive or in the airport for your travel. Sometimes if you have delays, or depending on when you're arriving or departing, restaurants can be closed and you may need to have extra food with you, which also leaves us into snacks. Carrying snacks or small meals can be very helpful as well. Even for a long road trip, you might be able to easily stop at a restaurant, but you want to go for a pretty long time before stopping. So items like granola bars, trail mix, nuts, or even fruit are great items to bring along, or even maybe a peanut butter sandwich. Staying hydrated is so very important as well. So many times when we're feeling hungry, we might actually be dehydrated and thirsty. So carrying water, especially a water bottle with you, is going to be very helpful for staying hydrated, especially in conditions where we might not typically think of we're going to be thirsty until it's too late. And by the time we do feel thirsty, we are already dehydrated. Looking up healthier options at restaurants as well. You can always think of that plate method that we talked about, half non-starchy veggies, quarter protein, quarter carbohydrate. But any restaurant that has greater than 20 stores or chains has to have their nutritionals online, or even small restaurants have their menus posted now. So if you have a smartphone, it's a very easy thing to do just to look up what the menus are so you can plan ahead. And factoring in restroom breaks too. One, we want to stay hydrated, but also as we're traveling, we're sitting a lot. So this will also help with increasing our exercise and movement on those long trips. On the holiday itself, the main thing we want to make sure we avoid doing is skipping meals. So many times I hear people in the clinic when they say, well, I want to eat a big dinner, so I'm going to skip every other meal, which is really hard, one, for taking medications, but also on our digestive tract. And a lot of times we always think, especially on Thanksgiving, at full stomach, and we fall asleep. So having those 3 meals a day, nicely spaced out, is going to be very beneficial. And you can just plan it around whatever time that meal, the main meal, will be. Typically, it's good to get a good breakfast in. We want to be eating about every 3 to 4 hours anyways, so get your breakfast in, your main meal maybe even a little earlier in the day. You can decide if you need snacks in between. And do consider the medications and timing as well, to make sure, one, that your blood sugars don't go too high, but also so that you don't risk having a low blood sugar. And then also consider if you're having a buffet at wherever you're eating. A lot of times it's so easy to start at the beginning of the buffet and get all these foods and realize all your favorite foods are at the end, which can make it have a very large plate at that point. So skim the buffet first and then decide what foods you really want to eat. Eating your favorite foods hot, fresh out of the oven can be best. And then you can decide later, because you know you have to eat 3 to 4 hours later, and we typically have plenty of leftovers at a holiday, feel free to go grab those at that time. And just remembering that our eyes are always bigger than our stomach, so being careful of how much we put on that plate, because sometimes we have extra pressure to continue eating even though we might be full. And that is one thing too, is kind of going back to those hunger and fullness cues. eat when you're hungry, slow down and stop when you're full. You can always come back to that food later. And we've talked about it previously in terms of hydrating when you're traveling, but hydrating during the holiday is important too. A lot of times there's different beverages that we might not always consume on a daily basis, which are still fine to have, but making sure you're getting that water in as well so that you're fully hydrated. And incorporating those fruits and veggies. So we talk a lot about increasing our vegetables, making half that plate be those non-starchy veggies. If you are concerned that those items might not be there, but you're looking at bringing a dish, that might be an excellent dish for you to personally bring in terms of maybe a fruit salad or a nice vegetable, either for a snack before or after, or during the meal. And it can also help after the meal to congregate in areas away from food. It is very tempting if we're sitting next to the table to pick at that food throughout the time frame of being there. But if we can move away, maybe that is with the exercise, going on that family walk, or just going into a whole different room, it'll bring you away from that food. And for some, out of sight, out of mind is very helpful. And of course, holidays, we do want to discuss alcohol. We want to caution the number of beverages. And I always tell everybody, don't shoot the messenger, but it is 2 drinks a day for men and 1 drink a day for women. When we get to 3 drinks, that is considered binge drinking. So just being mindful of how much alcohol you're having and being cautious of and having that water in between so that you can feel well. And always eat when you are drinking any alcohol. We want to avoid drinking alcohol on an empty stomach, especially with the risk of low blood sugars. When we start to drink alcohol, our body will start to metabolize the alcohol first, which can actually lower our blood sugars temporarily. After the last drink is consumed, which takes roughly 7 hours, then those blood sugars start to go up. So temporarily you risk having a low blood sugar. Later on you risk having a higher blood sugar. So definitely working with either your educator or your doctor if you are going to be having any alcohol. Then what do we do with all the food afterwards? So those leftovers. There are some really great ways of having those leftovers. One is freezing them into small containers. If you are not one for liking to cook, having leftovers throughout the rest of the course of the next couple weeks frozen so you can easily pull them out of the freezer and heat them up whenever you like is really nice. The concern with having a larger container, if you take all of that out and unthaw it, then you're going to be more prone to eating it all at once versus having it for a longer period of time. You can always make those recipes into healthier items too. Some people enjoy making like quiches and frittatas, or even just different sandwiches that you can have later. I know a family favorite is some will make their food into a burrito after Thanksgiving. And of course, you can always share the food as well. If you have a lot of family and friends over, send it home with them, less for you to have to worry about. So, some closing thoughts to go along with this. We focus so much throughout the course of the year on losing weight and focusing on those blood sugar numbers. When we're looking at weight loss, at this point, I would focus on weight maintenance. That way you can still enjoy all the foods. There is no good or bad food, it's just portion size, and that's what we really want to focus on. And allowing yourself to enjoy those foods by not being overly restrictive, which can lead to some of those sadness and guilt type feelings when we don't allow ourselves to have those items that we really enjoy and might be traditional family meals. Taking time for yourself to de-stress. Holidays are very rough. While they can be very, very exciting and fun, where they're typically busy, we're running around, they're stressful. So making sure that you're taking on a daily basis time to take care of yourself by either, if you need to check your blood sugars, getting your proper nutrition in, as well as exercise, and whatever methods you like to do to de-stress. Exercise could be that method, it could be calling a friend, it could be reading a good book, or meditation, whatever you enjoy doing, but making sure you factor in that time for yourself to be on your own and just de-stress. And of course, as we talked about today, using that mindful eating to really enjoy the food and also to enjoy your holiday season. if you do have any questions, my name is Kim Pierce, and I am the dietitian at Stephanie Tubbs Jones, so you do have my contact information here. And if you have any other questions, please let me know.